Hi everyone, I'm Zach Reinhardt. We're back visiting at my mom's place, so we might see a small black pug, but until then, I'm here to review the new Prince Graves album, Half Awakening. Prince Graves is the solo project of Miss Kawai Ami of the band She Talks Silence, and this is her first record under this name. The boys from Cairo Phenomenons, formerly just Cairo, are also on this record on about half of the songs doing the instrumentation. I'm not very familiar with She Talks Silence, but I am pretty familiar with Cairo Phenomenons going into this record, and this album has a fairly similar dreamy quality to some of Cairo Phenomenon's work, but it's a little outside their comfort zone in just how psychedelic and weird it gets, because this is a Psych-Pop record with a little bit of psychedelic rock mixed in there for good measure. This album kicks off with the song Holy Flirts, which is a pretty much straight up psychedelic rock track, though cut down in the runtime a lot to be of a more typical length. The song starts out with these really fuzzed out guitars and a really tight rhythm section, and the song is really kind of straight up psych rock. We get these fuzzy, affected, kind of psychedelic guitar solos, two of them, and the song really likes to ride on these repetitive chord progressions and really kind of turn it into a bit of a jam, despite the fact that it does have a more typical verse-chorus structure. The song is mixed really well. It really uses all of the space it has with these kind of psychedelic effects and echoes going on in the background to fill up all the background space. And it makes the song really kind of blurry. Like, it's a little hard to hear what any one instrument is doing, with the exception of the bass and drums, which are really clear in the mix of fuzzy, distorted guitars. The vocals are pretty buried in the mix. It's kind of hard to make out what she's saying in here. She has a pretty high-pitched, kind of soft voice. And overall, the song is just really solid. It's a really good introduction to the album. It's the most kind of typical psych rock track, and I'm glad they got that out at the beginning. It kind of sets a mood for what's to come, but the rest of the album isn't quite as straightforward as this song is. The next track, Casual Wounds, is a good example of this. It's a lot less trippy and distorted than Holy Flirts was, but it's still very dreamy, it's very spacey, it has these guitars that really resonate, they have a lot of reverb, and there's a lot of kind of echoing resonance going on in the song. It has a really kind of lazy, stripped back, somewhat minimalist groove to it, and the vocals come in and they're very soft and pretty, and the song is very kind of serene, and it does build somewhat, but the song really doesn't have any sort of direction. It doesn't seem to have much forward momentum. It seems to be kind of just swirling in a circle. The most building direction we get is when the second vocal track comes in and gives the song this kind of tune-yardsy call and response thing going on in the vocals, which sounds very nice. It harmonizes well. But the complete kind of lack of any forward momentum actually is really cool on this song, because it makes it all the more surprising when they suddenly bring in these loud, distorted guitars and jam on this kind of psych riff with this noisy, kind of crazy guitar solo going on in the background. The song gets really intense really quickly, and even on subsequent listens, it's still a surprise, just because there's no real clue prior as to where this is going to come in. You just have to kind of know how long into the song it comes. Overall, it's a really cool track that I like a lot. I like the way it almost kind of frustrates you with how directionless it seems. But then when it comes in, it feels like all that waiting was worth it by just the amount of explosive surprise that the more psychedelic jam part brings. One song I didn't like quite as much on here is the fourth track, It. This track is a bit too much of a typical indie pop track for me. It feels like there's not enough Prince Graves in this Prince Graves song. The song is pretty and honestly has one of the catchier vocal melodies of the whole album, but it just doesn't play with texture and kind of effects and psychedelic stuff in the same way that the rest of the album does. It still has some of that, but it's much more subdued. It's much more in the background in favor of having more of a typical indie pop sound in the front. On its own, this song is decent, but when put with all of the other stuff that Prince Graves is doing on this album, I find the song to be a little disappointing and a little lackluster in comparison. And also the mixing on this song is not nearly as good as the other songs. The drums feel somewhat disconnected from the rest of the music. It feels less like a drum track to a song, and it feels like somebody playing drums along with the song. And the guitar solo on this song sounds pretty amateurish too. But that track is really the only song I'm kind of down on in this whole album. The next track, Morning Sun, is really good. I don't know if it was intentional, but the somewhat ambiguous guitar arpeggios remind me a bit of the song Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. And the track after that, Anthem for Teenage Aliens, is a great song. And the song starts off with this really kind of ambiguous, floaty, reverby guitar line that eventually builds into this really great progression with a lot of kind of chromatic descending. The bass is descending constantly in this really slow chromatic way, and it makes it feel like the song is melting along with the watery guitar chords that are in the background. The song really embraces being psychedelic and weird and poppy at the same time. The song really sparkles with reverb and echoes and effects, these kind of watery phaser effects on one of the guitars. And Prince Graves gets the verse and chorus out of the way really quick. The first 2 minutes are just verse, chorus, and then the following 3 minutes are a big psychedelic jam that sounds great. It's super spacey, the rhythm is tight, everything grooves really well, and sounds great. The guitar solo on here is really nice as well. And the track after that, Lost Boy, is also great. It's really tight, it's upbeat and danceable. It has these nice kind of organ-sounding synthesizers that sound really nice on it. And the song is Psych-Pop at its best. It employs some really catchy melody lines throughout the song, and towards the end it turns into just a big psychedelic jam that sounds great. But really, all the songs on here are really, really good. Though they do have some production issues. Sometimes they are a bit too lo-fi to the point where I think it hurts them a bit, and I think a slicker production could have been nice. But overall, they sound great. Even the last track, Eternal, which is basically just an acoustic singer-songwriter track, sounds great and really fits with the album. They psyched it up a little bit with some effects and a little bit of reverby, phasery nonsense going on in the background. But really this song is charming and quaint and pretty and has some of the best vocal melodies, some of the most catchy and memorable vocal melodies on the whole album. It's also a nice closer to the album without being some emotional, sad or triumphant ballad or something like most albums end with. This song is just subdued, it's stripped back, and just really nice. So yeah, overall I love this album. I think it sounds great. I'm really impressed with how well everybody pulls off this sound, this kind of psychedelic rock and pop sound on here. I think it turned out really well, and I think the production, though it has some issues occasionally, is really good most of the time. And these songs are really tight, and there's really not much to complain about on here at all. I'm feeling a 9 out of 10. I think this is the best pop album we've had all year so far. If any of this sounds up your alley, I highly recommend you check it out. It is available on vinyl if you're into that. That's how I got it. I picked it up. And yeah, so that's me. New Prince Graves album. It's called Half Awakening. And I'm really looking forward to whatever Prince Graves does in the future, because this is a really, really solid album. Peace.